I knew very little about the Guthrie, about Minneapolis, about Minnesota. When I came in 1995, I told my wife that we were going to be here for 3 years. And when we leave here, which will be in 2015, it'll have been 20 years. I'm not looking to leave a legacy. What I'm looking to do is to do the best I can to make certain that the Guthrie grows. The Guthrie, of course, was founded in 1963 by Tyrone Guthrie himself, along with the desire to create a rotating repertory of classical plays with a permanent company outside the city of New York to try and decentralize American theatre away from the commercial center that New York was and indeed still is. But of course, it was quite a brave experiment in 1963 to create here in the heartland of the United States a company that would present classical literature. The first production was Hamlet, and they also played that year The Miser and Death of a Salesman and Three Sisters. And so there was a kind of an indication we're going to do classical work, but Death of a Salesman was a relatively new work at that time, 63, so it wasn't quite the classic it's become in the subsequent 50 years. So they were pointing the way towards some more contemporary work as well. And that sort of pattern really has gone on ever since, the idea that it's largely a classical theatre presenting work from the canon of the classics, and at the same time now, more recently, with new work. The Guthrie really from day one had outgrown its space. The Ralph Rapson building over on Vineland Place was a beautiful piece of architecture, but backstage was not really very well thought through. Even Guthrie himself said, we ran out of money and we sort of stopped at the door through to the backstage. Once the Walker announced their expansion plans, it became very, very clear that the Guthrie would either stay the way it was or would have to leave that site. When we came here first, it was a parking lot. And of course, because there are a number of trees looking out to the river, you couldn't see the river. And it took our architect, Jean Nouvel, and his particular kind of genius to recognize that if we were going to build the theatre here on this site, the only way we could build it was that we could build the theatres 50 feet in the air, so that these views of the river, of the falls, of the whole historic district, that those views would become available to the audience. Thanks to the generosity of an enormous number of donors and the generosity of the state of Minnesota, we moved down here to the river in 2006.
Ladies and gentlemen of Clybourne Park and Pride and Prejudice, this is your 15-minute call.
I think that we have here in the Twin Cities one of the best theatre communities in the country. If the Guthrie hadn't been founded here 50 years ago, I don't believe that theatre culture would have grown in the same way. The opportunity for local actors to work here at the Guthrie means that there are people who are able to have the opportunity to have a life and a career. The Guthries also developed some of the truly great artisans and craftspeople in this country. Whether they're building sets, whether they're building costumes, whether they're building props, painting, we have an extraordinarily dedicated group of people. I think anybody who comes to a show at the Guthrie will agree that our visual productions are always world class. One of the reasons why many years ago I came to the Guthrie to work and become its artistic director was because of the thrust stage. It just felt to me like the perfect place to present the kind of plays that excite me, whether it's Shakespeare or some of the great classics. And so for the years that I've been working here, this has been and remains my favorite space in the world to work. You have a connection between actor and audience that you don't have anywhere else.
There is in everyone, I believe, a tendency to some natural defect.
And your defect is to hate everybody.
In part of the thinking through what the Guthrie might become, I designated the Guthrie as a national centre for theatre art and theatre education. Yes, we continue to be a repository for major classical work, but we've also now been able, because of having the proscenium arch theatre, to do more modern plays. And so plays that have been successful in other parts of the world can now be seen here on our stage. Along with that, in our studio, we work very closely with small young companies in the Twin Cities to give them a space in which they can do their work.
Got to get up. It ain't even 5 in the morning yet. I said get it up!
So we've been able to give to the Twin Cities audiences a much broader program than we were able to give in Vineland Place. And of course, along with the University of Minnesota, we have a training program, our BFA program in classical acting, which since its first graduates in 2004 has produced a range of the most wonderful young actors who not only have graced our stage, but also have worked in other theatres right around this community. And you also have them in New York, you have them in Chicago, you have them all over the country, they're on television. This has been a very, very successful program.
What makes the BFA program pretty unique is that it's a conservatory-style training environment within a university. So it's just as an intense artistic load for us as it is for people at Juilliard or at all these other major training programs in the country. But we're also given the chance to be scholars, which I've found to be very unique and important to me going into actor training.
Joe is so interested in the training of actors. He feels that Guthrie has a real responsibility as a leading theater in the United States to be the place that does train the future artists of tomorrow.
If you're kind of heading this way and then suddenly it's, oh my God.
One of the really great parts about the BFA program is that at the end of your 4 years, you get a chance to audition for Joe. And having been lucky enough to continue to work here through my career has been incredible. And I owe that to the BFA program.
Thank God he's asleep. I heard the last part of his talk. It's what I warned you.
I'm a great believer that the theatre is the actor's medium. On stage, an actor walks out there, fully clothed, of course, we hope, but naked as the day that they were born. They have got to deliver.
A sweet spectacle for me. My firstborn, who I hoped would bear my name with honor and dignity, who showed such brilliant promise.
Be quiet, can't you, Papa?
A waste, a wreck, a drunken hulk, done with and finished.
Ah, Clarence is come. False! Fleeting, perjured Clarence that stabbed me in the field by Tewkesbury. Seize him, Furies, take him into torment. The hell are you staring at? Look in my face. My name is Might Have Been. I am also called No More, Too Late, Farewell.
I'm well aware of that, and God knows I don't want to look at it.
One of the things that I feel very strongly about in rehearsal is that the job of the director is to make sure that the actor feels completely comfortable in the choices he or she is making, that those choices make sense for the character and for the story. And by the sort of questioning back and forward about what they're doing, you finally give the actor the confidence that their choices that they're making and the way they're making those choices is actually completely germane to the character and to the story. I think we just need to keep racking up the tension just that little bit more. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, rather than the hilarity. I think once that violence has happened, then we should calm that all down so that the kind of more sinister drunk comes through.
Okay.
Joe has a great sense of how far to go and then how to pull it in a little bit. But he's a sucker for a good comedian. He loves to laugh. He'll let me play for a long time before he says, okay, well, that's just a bridge too far, that bit right there, just a little too much.
All of the work that happens between an actor and a director is about trust. The actor trusting the director trusting the actor. And when you get that mutual trust, you have a good production.
A long life and a Merry Christmas.
There are a number of very happy success stories related to the Guthrie, but none more so than A Christmas Carol. Its value to the Guthrie is that it is the starting point for many, many generations of Minnesotans to live theatre. In a way, it's our biggest connection into the community. To sit in on a Saturday matinee and watch the faces of these children, it warms every cockle that was ever in my heart. I had absolutely no idea when I came here that it would be anything other than a 3-year stint. The idea of being here for 20 years, the idea of building a new theatre, none of that was in my mind. I think that if one is talking about leaving behind something that won't hopefully change a great deal, it is the success of the BFA program we have at the University of Minnesota. I would very much want to see that program really immortalized and made a permanent part of the university and the Guthrie. Well, this is the lobby of the Dowling studio, and in many ways it's one of the favorite places that people have in the building. When Jean Nouvel and I were talking about this space, he said to me, "So this studio will be for young people?" And I said, "Yes, it will be for young people." And he said, "Then we must make these windows optimistic. So even on a gray day, you look out here, it looks like the sun is shining." And so that whole sense of hope, optimism, and the future was very much what this space is about.